Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email, education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle, @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Once again, you are welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio, Television, e-learning program. The subject today is literature in English. We are going to be treating a non-African poetry known as the Schoolboy. The poet is William Blake. We know in poetry we have African and non-African poems, and today, just like I said, we are treating a non-African poetry. And William Blake is the poet who was born in 1757. In his lifetime, he was a poet, a painter, and a print maker. He started writing at a very tender age of 10, when he claimed to have seen a vision of a tree full of angels. He had no formal education, as he was taught at home by his mother. He disapproved of the intellectuals in the higher institutions because he believed that they limited themselves to a life of servitude, which was regulated only by educational policy, meaning he disliked what is called a formal education. William Blake believed their knowledge was artificial, as they had no free will and spirit. In spite of his lack of formal education acquired in a classroom setting, he had a master's degree in philosophy, religion, history, and various languages. Before Blake died in 1827, he was married to Catherine Boucher, an illiterate whom he taught how to read, write, and draw. Let's see the background of the poem, The Schoolboy. The Schoolboy is a romantic poem. As a reminder, every romantic poem, non-other English or non-English, as English poets, since we are concentrating on the English poet now, English poets who have their writings categorized as romantic poems unambiguously display their love for nature and the peace that nature embodies. Romantic poets believe in the use of their imagination to exploit literary creativity as a means of defying nature. Romanticists are basically non-conformists. They are perceived to be irrational and daring as they aspire to do things differently. Romantic poets idolize nature and regard it as a great source of inspiration. They find comfort in escaping in the beauty world of nature. Intensive formal education was one of the fallouts of the Industrial Revolution. So romanticists believe that the Industrial Revolution made the world artificial and unprofitable. William Blake, in the poem The Schoolboy, maintains that education takes away the individual sense of fulfillment and quest for adventures. As a romantic poem, it celebrates and appreciates nature and condemns every form of human and societal restriction placed on it. The poet is against the destruction of childhood innocence as a result of the emphasis placed on the importance of classroom education. The poem, that is The Schoolboy. Let's look at the poem again. Let's see it as it is. Now the schoolboy. I love to rise in a summer month when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman wings his horn and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what sweet company. But to go to school in a summer month, oh, it drives all joys away. Under a cruel eye at one, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. And then at times I troop in seat and spend many an anxious hour. Nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in learning's bower, one through with the dreary shower. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? How can a child, when fierce annoyed, but droops his tender wing and forgetting useful spring? Oh, father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossoms blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day by sorrow and care's dismay, how shall the summer arise in joy, or the summer fruits appear? How shall we gather what griefs destroy? Oh, bless the mellowing year when the blasts of winter appear. I will take the poem again so that you understand it the way it's supposed to be. The poem, The Schoolboy. I love to rise in a summer month when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman wings his horn, and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what sweet company. But to go to school in a summer month, oh, it drives all joy away. Under a cruel eye at one, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. And then at times I drop in seat and spend many an anxious hour. Nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in learning's bower, one through with the dreary shower. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in cage and sing? How can a child, when fierce annoyed, but drops his tender wing and forget his youthful spring? Oh, father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossom blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day by sorrow and care's dismay, how shall the summer arise in joy, or the summer fruits appear? Oh, how shall we gather what griefs destroy? Or bless the mellowing year when the blast of winter appears? That is the poem, The School Boy. I want to believe you're enjoying the reading of the poem. If you have a copy and you follow us, you must have enjoyed it better than I expected of you. The setting. I told you earlier that every poem, every book, every text of literature have a setting. And you always take note that the setting is the place and time. The setting is always the place and time of the writing. Now, that of Schoolboy deploys imagery from the natural world to deal with the restrictions placed on the unrestricted spirit of childhood. The poem is set in England. What dominates the poem is the idealization of nature, which was common at the time. Blake wrote this poem in 1789. The subject matter. You know that the last teacher you had the other time told you, it reminded you why are we writing the story? Why the poem? That is the subject matter. Why? Now, the mental picture created in the mind of the student or reader is of a little boy in a natural environment surrounded by beautiful trees, flowers, and birds, who serve as sources of inspiration for the poetic persona. The poem is a lamentation of a young boy who is not happy with the restriction placed on him, which has not allowed him to associate with nature as he will have love. He is not happy that he has not been allowed the freedom that is associated with nature. He is unhappy with his parents who wants him to go to school. The regimentation of this child's life by a host of parental and social rules and regulations leads to the child becoming sad as he longs for freedom to bask in the beauty of summer. Accordingly, nature is the only place where the schoolboy can find emotional, physical, and psychological fulfillment and happiness. He is unhappy with his parents who wants him to go to school. The poem explores the beauty of nature and the importance of staying intimate with or appreciating nature. The poetic persona laments that classroom education stifles creativity and offers no joy. The teachers are hostile and the environment is not encouraging at all. He sees education as bondage and assumes that traditional education cripples freedom. Let's look at the poem. That's line analysis. Let's look at the poem line by line. The first 5 stanzas portrays the boy to be amused by a chirping of the birds announcing a new dawn. The reader or student is made to understand that the poetic persona is a young boy who is happy when he wakes up to see the dawn of a new and delightful summer morning. In line 5, oh, what sweet company. The experiences from the natural world attracts the boy. The second stanza of the schoolboy is line 6 to 10. The child is not happy because they or he have the feeling that they are in bondage, from which they cannot be free. Hence, the child has to compulsorily attend the school. We also discover that the yearnings and aspirations of the boy is frustrated by constraints or having to go to school under the watchful eyes of a cruel eye. Likely, that cruel eye is who? A teacher. Lines 11 to 15. The boy shows that he is distressed and weary as he sits in the classroom because his mind is elsewhere. He is not delighted by the books that he is compelled to read. We deduce from the poem that education becomes a tool used to inflict maximum pain on the poet persona and others like him. In the fourth stanza, the child likens himself to a caged bird who has been severed from this fountain of happiness and joy, nature. The poetic persona realizes that there is no way that he can operate optimally in the classroom stifling environment. To him, he cannot express himself freely, and therefore he is not emotionally fulfilled. In lines 20 to 25, the boy and others alike are the birds as tender plants, which will be destroyed if they are severed for nature. He is in search of a practical solution to his predicament, and he is of the view that a promising child like him should not be removed from the sources of his happiness, that is nature, and if that is done, he will not be able to flourish. The last stanza, that's line 26 to 30, contains a lot of rhetorical questions pointing to the fact that there is no way he can be fruitful or flourish if he does not have access to nature. The poet persona is conveying in this line that if childhood pleasures and joys are truncated as a result of the imposition of a regimented lifestyle that is integral to education, adult life will be utterly dry and unproductive. Let's look at the themes. The first theme there is formal education in a classroom is a form of imprisonment. Throughout the poem, we are confronted by the boy's lamentation of the regimented life that he has to endure in the school system. The boy criticized the schooling system as a means of oppression. Although William Blake has no formal education, he was very critical of the belief that the people who operated it were enslaved to conventions. In this poem, we see the boy's resentment of the restriction placed on him by formal education. His parents and an overbearing teacher within the confines of a school year. The schoolboy is a poem that is a form of a revolt against the educational system and a stringent call for students to be free. The spirit of romanticism compels the poet persona to detest the processes involved in acquiring formal education as enforced by his parents and the teacher. Through the poetic persona, William Blake expresses how social institutions limit young minds and rid them of their imagination. To the boy, school is nothing but a prison that destroys the innocence of childhood. Number 2 lies the theme. The beauty and splendor of nature. The poem is an affirmation of the poet's belief that he can lose the essence and exquisiteness of nature if he is deprived of the opportunity to appreciate it. The poetic persona complements nature, and nature makes him complete. Hence, romantic poets worship nature and believe in the power of imagination. He is of the opinion that nature offers joy and happiness, while other alternatives, such as going to school, only offer sighing and dismay. The poetic persona laments his inability to function within the freedom of embodied in nature. Metaphorically, the caged bird refers to the limitation placed on him by the society and his parents because of the emphasis placed on the acquisition of education. Theme number 3. Children should be given the opportunity to chant their destiny. At the time William Blake wrote this poem, parents were probably of the opinion that education was the only acceptable means of enlightenment. In the poem, Blake pushes a major idea, which is the importance of individual freedom. The poet was a self-educated man. and therefore believed that good education could be acquired outside of a school environment. That children should not be forced to go to school, which makes him to please with his parent for his freedom from the cage, that is formal education, in a classroom. The poetic personnel appreciate the joy and freedom that comes with being able to interact freely with nature, but regrets after being forced to go to school. Language, diction, and structure. Language, see it as diction, and the structure of the poem, The Schoolboy. The language or diction of The Schoolboy by William Blake is very simple and accessible. Structurally, The Schoolboy is a poem woven into 6 stanzas of 5 lines each. That is 30 lines in all. If each of the stanza is considered separately and individually, we are going to have the rhyming scheme that say A, B, A, B, B. If we are to consider it separately, will be the rhyming scheme. Then let's look at the poetic techniques in the poem. There is the deployment of varieties of figurative and sound devices in the poem, The Schoolboy. Let's look at the first figure of speech. Now remember, your English teacher and the other literature teacher also taught you figures of speech. And I want to believe you have not forgotten the lesson you learned under figures of speech, whether it is the same thing, whether from literature or from English language. Figures of speech is figures of speech. All you need to do is to understand them. So the first one here is a metaphor. And we'll see that one in line 14. Learning's bower is a metaphor for the classroom. Now, instead of saying classroom, if English language want to say classroom, if you say learning's bower, it's the same thing. You can confuse your listener by saying learning's bower. They will not understand you except you or somebody who have gone through knowing what is metaphor. The bird in line 16 is a metaphorical reference to the boy. That's the bird is another name for the boy. We have the apostrophe. The poet personnel deploys the use of this device when he addresses his parents as if they are present. Oh, father and mother, he both are neat. That's in line 21. We have the personification. In line 2 and 4, when a bird is given the human attribute of singing. In line 8, the eyes is given the human attribute of being cruel, and in line 23 to 24, plants are made to possess the ability to be joyful. Rhetorical question. The effect of the rhetorical questions in this poem is prominent as it encourages the revelation of the predicament of the child who is repressed by his parents. Through these rhetorical questions, we are made to experience the predicament of the child and the feeling of injustice that he has because his parents and the teacher have no regard for his emotions. Dramatic monologue. The poem is an example of a dramatic monologue. A poem written in a form of a speech or statement made by an individual character. The individual character is the schoolboy who outlines the reason why he does not want to go to school. Now, before we continue, I want to draw your ears. Please, when the English teacher and the literal English teacher were teaching you figures of speech, do not forget those meanings they gave you. The meaning they gave you will always stand the test of time. The meaning of any figures of speech taught, whether by the English language teacher or the literal English teacher, will always stand the test of time. So always realize the meaning. Do not forget. Do not forget the meaning. So the schoolboy, we are not trying to discourage you from going to school. That was the idea of William Blake during his time. Remember when we are reading the poem and when we are explaining, We told you that the schoolboy, William Blake himself, do not have any formal education. He did not go to school. It was his mother that taught him at home. So he grew up with that idea that he disliked formal education because it placed a restriction on him. So, the assignment. Attempt the following questions as you study at home. Or you can call your friends, discuss with your friends in order to learn from their views. You may have your own view, you may have their own view. So call them so that you can discuss with them and then learn from them. They also learn from you. But take note of this question 1. How has the background of the poet affected the subject matter of the poem? Remember, he did not go to school. He did not go to formal education. So learn from him. How does that affect you? And the 2, the poet appears to be sad. Attempt a clear articulation of the reasons responsible for his sadness. Why do you think he is sad? Attempt a clear articulation of the reasons behind that. Number 3, comment on the idea that the schoolboy is a poem about freedom. Comment on that. So I repeat the question so that you understand. Listen, I'm going to be a little bit fast now. Attempt the following questions as you study at home or discuss with your friends in order to learn from their views. 1, how has the background of the poet affected the subject matter of the poem? 2, the poet appears to be sad. Attempt a clear articulation of the reasons responsible for the sadness. And then lastly, comment on the idea that the schoolboy is a poem about freedom. I'm happy to tell you that we have come to the end of today's lesson. But I want to believe maybe some of you may have 1 or 2 questions to ask or contribution to make. But in case you have such, now you can reach me on this number 08091740622. I repeat, 08091740622. My name remains Mr. Gankon Zaks. Stay home, stay safe, keep learning. Coronavirus is real. God bless you. See you in the next lesson.